Social media sites are cracking down on suspicious content advocating for particular presidential candidates. Facebook is investigating a claim that certain pro-Sanders content is being backed by Russian operatives or Trump supporters. That's according to a report from the Wall Street Journal. Facebook has not yet been able to verify the claims. Meanwhile, the LA Times reports that Twitter is suspending 70 pro-Bloomberg accounts for what it calls platform manipulation. CNET senior producer Dan Patterson joins us now from Charleston, South Carolina, ahead of Tuesday's presidential debate and Saturday's primary. Dan, Facebook has referred to the suspicious social media behavior surrounding presidential campaigns as, quote, coordinated, inauthentic activity. Can you break down what this means?
Hi, Lana. So we are in Charleston ahead of the debate tomorrow and the primary on Saturday, watching activity on social media. And as you indicated earlier today, Facebook, or the Wall Street Journal, reported that Facebook had worked with independent security researchers to identify what they call coordinated, inauthentic activity on what appeared to be pro-Bernie Sanders accounts. Now, let's break that term down. Coordinated means that not just bots, not just robots, not just large-scale attacks, but coordinated meaning many accounts in sync. Inauthentic means that these are not just bots, but they could be real humans on the other end of these accounts posting content that is not as you or I would post, an authentic post, but instead with political motivations. And of course, activity means that there is a lot of activity, or enough that it alerted a number of security researchers, and the data showed clear spikes in this activity.
Now, in the introduction, we talked about Senator Sanders and his campaign. I'm curious, Dan, why would foreign operatives want to push for Sanders rather than any of the other Democratic presidential candidates?
Well, there could be a number of reasons, but let us point out that these don't have to be foreign actors. In fact, what we saw with Russia, the GRU and the IRA in 2016 included inauthentic accounts along with bots in these sweeping campaigns. But one of the trends that we've identified pretty clearly in 2020 is that these tactics are pretty inexpensive and fairly easy to do, so there could be domestic actors as well. We don't really have an indication as to whether these are foreign actors or domestic actors, but when we look at Russia and the intents of the GRU and the IRA, the two organizations behind the 2016 hacks, we know that they have preferred candidates, not just in terms of policy positions and politicians they'd like to see in the White House, but in terms of opposition to President Trump. And there has been a number of activity that indicates that the GRU and the IRA would prefer to see Bernie Sanders go against President Trump than almost any other candidate in the field.
But why is that, Dan?
Well, there are a number of reasons. The first could be that Senator Sanders has many policy positions, or at least appears to be a populist, and we know that the Kremlin prefers populist candidates. But another reason could be that, well, Senator Sanders, the way he stacks up, could be in the way the Kremlin looks at this activity as a preferred candidate because he might be easier for President Trump to defeat. Now, we don't want to suggest that the polling says this, but this would be one of the preferred candidates for the Kremlin.
Now let's talk about some of those Bloomberg accounts. 70 pro-Bloomberg accounts were actually suspended by Twitter because they followed a pattern that violated company rules. What are the company rules regarding this type of thing, and how did those accounts violate them?
Yeah, so Lana, this is really interesting. This comes back to that phrase, coordinated, inauthentic activity. Now, Facebook coined this phrase, but the sentiment has been adopted by Twitter, Google, and other large platform companies. Now, what Twitter said is that these accounts were paid by the Bloomberg campaign, and there are indications, reports that these were real human beings who were paid to be influencers by posting content that was copy and pasted or came from a template, used similar hashtags, used similar language, and that these people were posting on behalf of Bloomberg in a way that was not, as Twitter says, authentic.
So, how are Twitter, Facebook, and other social media platforms responding to this type of coordinated, real people, but inauthentic, as they call it, activity?
Well, we have seen this antipathy towards bots and other types of inauthentic activity on Twitter after they get caught. So there was a company called Devumi that was selling fake followers or fake accounts that really spurred Twitter into action. And we saw that the platform made a lot of changes in 2018 and 2019. Facebook has made similar changes after the Cambridge Analytica scandal rocked the company after the 2016 election. And of course, Google, with their YouTube platform, has also cracked down on inauthentic or content that is or could be paid or otherwise influencer type of content directed at political accounts.
Dan Patterson, thank you.